Welcome to Dr. Kush's Exotic Drinks. I'm, of course, Dr. Kush, along with my barback Kyle. I'm not a real doctor, but I did spend almost 2 decades running some of LA's best bars. After years of teaching classes and training bartenders, I want to demystify the cocktail world for you. Let's try a few new things as I open up my bar to everybody. Belly up, chat, and let's have a drink. Welcome to Dr. Kush's Exotic Drinks. It's me, Dr. Kush. We are here today. I just want to start off today. I know there was some confusion yesterday. It was all over the place. YouTube apparently crashed in the middle of the class. So if some of you were trying to write and it wasn't getting through, and it seemed like maybe I was talking about things that you guys already talked about, I couldn't see what was going on. I couldn't see some of the messages. So I know that I'm now 2 days late. I want to wish Amy Beer a very happy birthday. It seemed like I was like baiting and switching her by the fact that she shared a birthday with my niece. And listen, the whole thing, can we just all happy birthday to Amy Beer? I did not see the whole thing. I know I wished you one yesterday, but it was all convoluted. So happy birthday. Good to have you. Okay. These Wednesday classes they used to be a thing. We used to do them all the time. It was a thing called Drinker or Stinker. Drinker or Stinker, where I would go through old cocktail books and I would find cocktails that I thought sounded not great. And then I would make them and decide whether or not, hey, maybe somebody's like slipping something past us. Maybe this is one of those rare occasions where you can add like peanut butter to tequila and make a delicious peanut butter tequila sandwich. I don't know if that would work, but it sounds weird enough that might have been in the old Drinker or Stinker show. But since I'm unable to come here tomorrow, I have to do this one today. So we're going to be doing a Drinker or Stinker with a cocktail called the Big Bad Wolf. Why did we choose this one? Over the weekend for the Coachella drinks, I sang the Big Bad Wolf song a lot. And then I found a Big Bad Wolf cocktail. It all makes sense. The whole storyline sort of wraps itself up nicely with a bow. And also we have a fun new drop.
Little pig, let me in.
Yes, that is, of course, Negan from The Walking Dead. So that is what we're doing. We're going to be making a drink from Mr. Boston's, the old Mr. Boston's Bartender's Guide. I will show you my copy of it. I've seen some of you, or at least one of you, is collecting them. We will talk about the old Mr. Boston's Guide, and then we will make the drink. And most likely, this one seems like it could go one of one way. It's most likely going to be disgusting. But that is what we are doing tonight. Before we do that thing that we are doing tonight, let me say hello to all of our friends. Here is Tiki Tom. Tiki Tom was here first night. Tiki Tom wins the award. Congratulations, Tiki Tom, on your award of most first here tonight. You were the most first here. Tiki Tom thought about making this drink. That's the problem. The reason that, we'll get into some show politics. The reason that we switched from Drinker or Stinker is twofold. There's two reasons why we did it. First of all, it's really hard to find stinkers. Like, I went through so many volumes and looked for so many like different interesting ways to make a stinker or different interesting stinkers to make. And eventually you realize that most people don't publish really crappy drinks. They decide, hey, well, we don't have to. Do we have to do this? Most of the stinkers are like, hey, we got one more drink. Let's throw it in here. Let's just make it up. And that's how we find the stinkers. It became tough to find it. The other one was, of course, you guys would never, ever make these along with me. And I like to think that some of you guys are at home, making the same drink. We're all, even though we're not next to each other, we're all sharing a common thread of a common cocktail. I would not recommend you make any of these Drinker or Stinkers. Wait till I make them first and then decide if it's something that you want to do. So that's why Drinker or Stinker died. Tiki Tom, I warn you. Don't make this one until I'm finished with it, because Amy Beer is here tonight. Nice title. Does this one blow? And that's what I said. Does this Big Bad Wolf, does it blow? Tiki Tom does collect Mr. Boston's guides. I'll show you mine here in a second. I have one from 1940. I do not have a 1935. I've been looking for one for years, but I do have a 1940. So I'll show you my 1940 guide. Here's Shawnee Pennebaker. Good evening. Good evening to you. Here's Kyle Tender. It is Wednesday, my dudes. Very excited about Wednesday. Tiki Tom is he's going to retire here very soon, and we are throwing him a party here at this bar. So if you cannot make the live Tiki Tom retirement party, you can celebrate it here at Dr. Cush's Exotic Drinks. Why are we doing that? Because that sounds like a ton of fun. Because I love parties and I am ready to go. Shawnee Pennebaker already questioning some life choices of mine. Interesting. Can't say I've had a better one to offer. Yeah, listen, that this one seems like it might be right up the alley. Which Richie the Whiff, looking forward to Cush Face. Yeah, you might get it. You might get it. This one seems like it's not going to be ideal. We're going to find out, though. We are shaking with some whipping cubes, though, so be prepared for that. Scotty DuBois is here and in the house. Scotty DuBois, here's a fun fact about Scotty DuBois. I use Scotty DuBois' bottle every day to do the focusing. For some reason, these little letters are easy to focus on. So Scotty DuBois, know that every day I touch that Pro Beatus bottle. Every day I have a show, touch that Pro Beatus bottle because I'm working on getting my focus going. Paul, wow! Dang, I was on another thing. 1 second, Paul. Wow!
Wow.
Wow! Drinker or Stinker is back. Not for a long time, but not for a long time. We're just going to do it real quick. Let's see who else we got here. Anything with Hypnotic? We are not. This bar will not be buying any kind of Hypnotic. We just won't be buying it. So we try and do Drinker Stinker with stuff we already have here. I try not to go out and buy stuff for Drinker Stinker if I could possibly do it, because if it stinks and then I only know one drink with it, then I myself have become the stinker. And that's not the idea of what's going on. Found Pro Beatus last week, did Amy Beer. Great. It is a wonderful little rum. A very nice group of people put together that rum. I've had chats with them a number of times. They seem great. Dun, 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 dun. Let's get into this cocktail. This is called the Big Bad Wolf.
Little pig, let me in.
It comes out of this book right here. Now, not exactly this book. Kind of hard to see this one. It's pretty old. This book is from the 1940s. It is called the Old Mr. Boston Deluxe. It says Deluxe right there. Hard to see. Official Bartender Guide. Down here, it does have a price. The price is $2. It's a $2 book. Old Mr. Boston's Guide became known for being this tiny. They like it being small. They like it being red. They love the red on it. And then they love Old Mr. Boston being put on here. Now, what is the reasoning for this book? Why do we have this book? Old Mr. Boston was a kind of interesting company. They were not a cocktailing company per se. In fact, they were a liquor making company. And if you have a real Old Mr. Boston's Guide that is not a reprint or some sort of forgery, inside of an Old Mr. Boston's, you'll have this very cool thing. These are all advertisements for Mr. Boston. So this is Mr. Boston's bourbon that you have in here. This is Mr. Boston's rocking chair, something or other, or blended whiskey. This is their gin that they have right here. This is slow gin, orange gin. Just trying to find the one I'm looking for. Mint, apricot. There we go. They got this stuff called apricot nectar. Apricot nectar. Now, really what apricot nectar is, let's just see. It is 70 proof. Apricot nectar in here is 70 proof. And it is going to be mostly an apricot brandy. That's basically what it's going to be. It's going to be an apricot brandy. Now, what exactly do you do with that kind of thing? Well, Mr. Boston, in order to sell apricot brandy, started to collate. Is that a great word? Started to collect a bunch of recipes for drinks all around town, and then he would start making up. It wasn't really a guy. It was a guy named last name Cotton. That created this, but Old Mr. Boston's, the company, would collect all of these cocktails, these recipes, put them in the book, and then say you should use Old Mr. Boston's X, Y, and Z their orange gin, their rocking chair whiskey, all that kind of stuff. And then you would, once you had this book, you'd say, well, we have to use, it says you have to use Old Mr. Boston, 1 teaspoon Old Mr. Boston's Curacao, 1 1/4 ounce Old Mr. Boston's dry gin. It was an advertisement. You would basically pay $2 to then be advertised to. That's what this was. And they did a great job of sort of collecting a bunch of advertisements. Or sorry, they did a great, let me do that again. They did a great job of actually collecting a bunch of cocktail recipes and then putting out new editions every few years up until, and I think this is crazy, from 1935 up until 2015, when they eventually went online to Mr. Boston's Mr. Boston's Cocktails or Mr. Boston's Guide.com. It just put in Mr. Boston, you'll find it. Anyway, in this book, not this one particularly, this is the 40th version, the 1940s version. But in the 1935 version, in the very first version, there was a cocktail called the Big Bad Wolf. Now, how do I know that? I'll show you. A whole nother book right here called Jones. Inside of Jones, right here, we have a cocktail called the Big Bad Wolf. You just find it right here, Big Bad Wolf. No way that's going to fit in here, right? It's the Big Bad Wolf right there. Trust me, it says Big Bad Wolf. Don't fight me on that. It does say Big Bad Wolf. In this one, the recipe calls for 1 ounce of brandy, 1 ounce of brandy, 1/2 ounce of orange juice, 1 egg yolk, and 1/4 ounce grenadine. That sounded disgusting, and that's the first time I ever heard about this. However, I then went to MrBostons.com and found the original recipe, which sounds different. It sounds a little different. Doesn't have orange juice in it. Doesn't have regular old brandy in it. It has different stuff. So I decided I would go with the 1935 version of this from Old Mr. Boston and OldMrBoston.com. We would make this one and see, can it even possibly be an okay, even a fairly decent drink? I don't know. But that, my friends, is what we're here to find out. Is the Big Bad Wolf a blower or a shower? That doesn't make any sense. Should we hide away like the 3 little pigs every time we hear the Big Bad Wolf coming? I don't know. That's what we're about to find out. Let me say a real quick hello to Butopia, who never believes we're live. Is this a recording? It is not a recording. It is the real thing. Amy Beer has a copy from 1974, only $2.50 there. Yeah. In the end, they weren't trying, Mr. Boston's, was not trying to make any money off of the guide. They were using the guide to sell their booze. So I got a bottle of Old Mr. Boston Blue Carol. I believe that's probably Blue Curacao on my bar right now. Yeah, boy, that stuff sounds Old Mr. Boston. To be honest, I've never tried any Old Mr. Boston stuff. I think I probably should at some point. I have a feeling it's not the top quality, but I have no reason for saying that. It might be some of the most amazing stuff of all time. It just seems weird that they were advertising it so much. When somebody is advertising so much, I immediately think, spend so much on advertising, they should maybe do some R&D and make the stuff better. Doesn't matter. Okay, let's get into this cocktail. We're going to start over here with some Apricot Brandy. Now, I do have to say, this is not exactly the same thing as Old Mr. Boston's Apricot Nectar. Obviously, this is from Hiram Walker, and let's be totally fair, this is 60 proof, and the other stuff was 70 proof. That is going to change things just a little bit. Just a little bit, it's going to change things, but I have a solution. I have a solution for it. So we're going to start over here with some Apricot Brandy. Apricot Brandy is, of course, just made the same way that regular brandy is. When we say regular brandy, we're talking about grape brandy. Basically, make wine, and then you heat it up, and then you get the, you boil it off, and you get the distilled juices from that. You get the distilled alcohol from that. Same thing with this. You just basically make some apricot wine or some apricot beer or just some sort of apricots fermented stuff. You put it into a still, heat it up, and you get all the rest of it out. That's how we make this. Same kind of thing, although this one does have a little bit more sugar. I imagine that there's probably sugar added to it. I don't know. They don't have to say it on these. Let's go ahead and put in 1.25 ounces. These were annoying measurements. I'll do the measurements real quick. The actual measurements for apricot brandy in the old Mr. Boston's was 2/3 cup. Sorry, that's not right. The measurements for apricot nectar in the old Mr. Boston's was 2/3 glass. 2/3 glass. Kind of tough. Kind of a tough situation to do. Technically, 1 glass is 2 ounces, more or less. So we're doing 1.25 ounces of some apricot brandy, so that we are doing 2/3 of a glass of apricot brandy. How do I even do this? Like this, probably. We'll do 75. And we'll do 50. That is that seems like a poor college kid has absolutely still to this day has nightmares about apricot brandy and the smell. Because the apricot brandy will be a little bit sweeter, the apricot brandy we're using will be a little bit sweeter than the apricot nectar that old Mr. Boston's was using. We are going to change up one of the ingredients. It calls for Curacao. We're going to use dry Curacao. Little changes. Little baby changes. That's how we're going to sort of affect this. So grab some Curacao. If you're able to get 70 proof apricot brandy or Mr. Boston's apricot nectar, if you're able to get that, then you don't need to worry about using a dry Curacao, but I happen to have dry Curacao, so we're going to use it. Put in, and again, this is annoying. We need 1/6 ounce of some apricot. Sorry. We need 1/6 ounce of some dry Curacao. Feeling great. Got all the stuff in here. I don't believe that old Mr. Boston made their own Curacao. I don't know what type of Curacao they were making. I assume they were just making pomegranate juice and then making that into a syrup. That's what I assume. I don't know though. I wasn't hardly alive in 1934. But it doesn't matter, because even if it called for really bad grenadine, we would not be using it. We use our own homemade grenadine here. That's what we like. It is just pomegranate juice and some sugar in equal parts with a little bit of rose water and a little bit of orange flower water. You don't need much of this stuff. Nice and easy, nice and simple. You need like a dash. That's what it calls for, a dash. You can measure it probably by, everybody stay in there. You can measure it by probably doing 1/2 of a bar spoon. That might be a good way to do it. Let's just test it out. We'll do 1/2 of a bar spoon of some homemade grenadine. Didn't really do much. Turned it a little red, I suppose. Turned it just a little red. Now this is where the cocktail, I think, goes weird. A lot of cocktails call for a lot of weird things. I remember when I first started working in bars and somebody said, we're making a sour and you're going to put egg white in it. I said, that sounds crazy. Well, now I understand how important that is to cocktails. I did freak out a little bit when I learned about the flip and how you use the whole egg inside of a flip. I thought that was kind of interesting. Then came along this. We're cutting the egg white right out of this cocktail, and we're just going to be using the egg yolk. Technically, that is a flip. Technically, that's a flip. For the most part, though, for a lot of them, I guess, I will put the egg white and the yolk in them. But for a lot of them, you don't. Just for a lot of them, you do not do that. So we need just the egg yolk for this cocktail. So we're going to separate it out in here. Give this a little tap-a-roo. Then we are going to crack this open as gently as we can. And then we're going to take all this good egg yolk. And we're going to just drop that in here. Absolutely. Seems like a waste. Maybe I'll make a single egg omelet here in a minute. And then we're going to put this right here off to the side. We're going to drop 1 full egg yolk into this cocktail. It's happened. We cannot turn back now. We are in too deep, folks. We can't, at this point.
Little pig, let me in.
The big bad wolf is knocking, and we must answer the call. Go ahead and give this. We're going to do this in a dry shake manner. So we want to give this first of all, we want to give it a big dry shake. All right. Dry shake means no ice in it. It also means because because there's no ice in it, this isn't going to get cold, so it's not going to shrink together. It's not going to do that. So you really got to push down. Give it all your weight. Otherwise, you're going to get egg and everything all over it. And then you can give this just a nice, easy dry shake. Dry shakes don't have to like, it's not a rock and roll situation. It's just sort of a smooth jazz, like a marimba. It's like that. In fact, let me say it's exactly like that. Let's bring in Cream Cam here. You can see now how very creamy that looks. That's all that egg just sort of busted up in there. We're starting to get the kind of the look of it should kind of look like a creme brulee at this point, but still need ice. We still need ice. So pack this, put this back where it needs to be. We're going to put this, we always try if we can, pour in the smaller one. Put that there. And then give this a nice heaping glass of some ice, some whipping cubes. Find all the cubes I dropped. Go ahead and put this on. Shawnee Bannerbaker says, good to know. I've been really whipping my dry shakes. Yeah, don't worry too much about whipping your dry shakes there, Shawnee. Once the egg is basically beaten up in there, you're good. Can I give you one more suggestion for a really nice beaten dry shake? If you take this little guy right here, this is called a Hawthorne strainer, and you take the spring off of it and you throw it into the tins right here, that'll actually act like it is an egg beater or like a whisk. And you can throw it in there, and then you can shake even less because it's getting in there, sort of beating it up. All you want for the dry shake is for that whole thing to be beaten up. You just want that egg to not have any more structure. Cool. Here we go. Let's give this a big shake. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We don't want that to be so very, very shaken. Oh, no. Oh, yeah. I'll say I thought I didn't chill a glass, but don't worry. Past me was kind to myself. We're going to take this guy right here, and we are going to slowly pour this in. The slower you pour it in, the longer it takes. Fun fact about these low ABV cocktails, nothing in here is really high ABV. So when you do that and you shake these things really hard, what happens is because alcohol has a lower freezing temperature, it needs to be colder to freeze alcohol. And this will freeze faster, so it'll actually stick to your ice a lot more. So this will all eventually get out, but it just takes a little while. There we go. Okay. we're gonna call that. Yeah, that's pretty good. Here, I'll show you what's. Let's bring in what's left, Cam. This is what's left. You can see that like there's still, those little chunkules in there. Those are still hanging out because they are stuck to that ice. See if we can't get just a touch more in there. I mean, I'm not going to want all this. Probably should have stopped a little while ago, but this is now what we have. Let's see if this translates. Richie the Whiff has put up a, oh, dang. It looks like it's a little toxic guy. He is not happy. Paul says, look, Ma, I made pudding. Whew. I used the spring to thicken heavy cream. Have to remember that part. Yeah, the spring to do heavy cream is really good for the Ramos Gin Fizz, which sometimes has a name. This guy's right here is a cocktail called the Big Bad Wolf.
Little pig, let me in.
Let him in. Let this one into your heart, folks. I think that maybe we have a winner. I don't know. Espen Moose. Oh, let me get Moose's call. Animals. Moose. Paul thinks maybe I should use this drink as an interrogation tool, like some sort of waterboarding. I think you might be right. Sounds like a souffle more than it is more than cocktail. That's about right. I made a couple flips, not a bad one yet. Well, here we are. The Golden Fizz is the bomb. Do like Golden Fizz. Quarter ounce is a teaspoon. I should have known that. Either way, we're good. Okay. This right here is the cocktail that I have in front of me. It is called the Big Bad Wolf. Here we go. Yuck. Cheers to Green Jelly, and their song, The Three Little Pigs. Little pig, let me in. Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin. Cheers. Let me say, okay. Certainly not our worst, not even by a mile, our worst drinker or stinker. You know what it tastes like? It tastes like a creamsicle. It instead of putting milk in here, the egg, which is of course dairy, it gets in here. Yeah, it is. Try it again. Yeah, it's thick. I think is maybe my issue with this drink. It is it's got a thickness to it that maybe, just me personally, I'm not into real thick drinks like that. It's got the consistency of a milkshake. But I can watch this whole tape back and remember that I put no milk in here. So the egg, that raw egg yolk, sticks around. It really it kicks its weight in. I mean, honestly, I think that the part of the drink that is the Big Bad Wolf is the egg. The egg comes to the drink.
Little pig, let me in.
The egg yolk, I think, is too apparent in this drink. I think everything else is really everything else in this drink is fine. It's fine. I think orange Curacao is delicious. I would drink that by itself. I mean, not a lot, but the Apricot Brandy, I mean, it's Hiram Walker. They're a fine company. They're probably a great company. They make fine products. Our homemade Grenadine. It's the egg yolk that really sort of sets this one apart. Really makes it like hard to get out of your mouth. Can we all agree on that? Just makes it hard to like. I'm gonna have a hard time moving on with my day after drinking this cocktail because that egg yolk really doesn't belong there, I don't think. I don't think that we need the egg yolk in here. To be very honest, you could have done the exact same thing with a little heavy cream, and I think you would have done even better. Or let me suggest maybe a little milk or half and half, and then you don't have such a thick drink. That, my friends, stinker. I would give this one, if I had to give it the designation of drinker or stinker, if I was handed this at a bar and not told what was in it, I would finish the whole thing. So I do think that this one might be a drinker. It wouldn't be until after that I learned I had just housed an entire egg yolk and there was no milk in this cocktail that I would have second thoughts on it. So I think, like a lot of things, it's better not to know what's going in. It's better just to take the sum of the parts and not the individual pieces themselves, because I think the egg yolk is throwing me off. I don't like how creamy this cocktail is. Pretty disgusting. But like I said, I probably will finish this one, unfortunately. A good rum should wash that out. I think you're probably right. I might just use a bad rum and light some of it on fire. Do wolves like creamsicles? Asks Kyle. This is about the fourth wolf question he's asked today. I think Kyle's asking for a dog at this point. I don't know, Kyle, if wolves like creamsicles. I have heard a theory on why this cocktail is called the Big Bad Wolf, and it actually has to do with this color right here that we've got pretty down. Probably could have used a touch more grenadine, but apparently they think that this cocktail was named after the Disney short cartoon, the 10-minute short cartoon called The Big Bad Wolf. And it was actually named after the pigs because this is the color with just a touch more grenadine. This would be the color of the pigs on that in that short. I thought that was kind of an interesting theory on it. I can't prove or say that I can't say that's wrong or right, but that might be it. So that's that. I would act like I accidentally knocked it over. Kyle would kill me. Okay, guys, that is it. We have an accidental drinker in here. It is not a full-on stinker. It's an accidental drinker. I'm not going to have more than one. And let me say, after I've had this one, I will never have this again. But I would drink it at a bar. So we have a drinker. Do we have I think we might have a winning sign for that. Here. That's the drinker sign. We've done it. Okay. Reminder, I am not able to open the bar tomorrow. That is why we are here today. So Thirsty Thursday will have to be a private celebration amongst you. You guys can pop on over to the Facebook page, Dr. Cush's After Hours, and hang out there, celebrate there. Hopefully I'll be able to check in over there. But we will be back here on Saturday for a good old-fashioned rootin' tootin' cocktail show. So tune in on Saturday here. Mix is not live this week, I don't think. I haven't heard anything from Mix. Wrote them an email recently, but haven't heard anything. But we'll figure it out. Nothing this Friday, but we are back on Saturday to hang out with all of our friends here at Dr. Cush's Exotic Drinks.
Today's secret word is okay.
Okay, so that's what we got for all of us. For me here, Dr. Cush, and the whole drinker or stinker family, I want to wish you all a drinker life and not so much a stinker life. And I also want you guys to answer the question that we've all been asking ourselves.
Are you Dr. Jinga Janga?
So we have to find that gosh darn Jinga Jenga. And after that, I want to say to you guys,
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Dang it. It's so smooth if I hit it on the first one. I didn't know I could push two buttons at the same time. All right. As we always like to say, bye-bye.
This is the way we talk in Tucson, Arizona.
No.
This is the way we talk in Tucson, Arizona.
wanted to take a picture. It'll last longer. Okay, okay, okay.
Little pig, let me in.
That's funny. I'm funny.
Elmo's not going to drink this piss!
How about that drink? How about that drink?
Have a drink with us.
Yes, all right, woo!
I know.
Okay.
Little pig, let me in.